Awesome Osprey. Oh, that's not going to be good either. Hi, Awesome Osprey kindergartners. Last week you spent the whole week researching about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We had a big question, which was, who was Dr. King? And you spent the week researching, reading, listening, and searching for information to fill your note taker. So you did a lot of the hard work last week. So give your brain a kiss. And then today I'm going to show you how to turn your note taker into sentence writing. So let's get started. Oh, that's tomorrow's. Let me move myself over here, make this nice and big, and focus up that Elmo. All right, so the first thing we need to know is we're going to start our sentence off. Our very first sentence is going to start Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So I'm going to circle that one. I'm going to use yellow. I'm going to use a yellow crayon so I can see it, but it doesn't cover up my words. So we're going to start Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and I'm going to circle and color that in so that it's highlighted. See how when I highlight, I can see it really easily, but it does not cover up my words. That's going to be number one. Now, those are a lot of letters to write. So sometimes our sentences are going to start with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and sometimes they're going to start with the sight word he. 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 And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit, but I'm going to color it up. All right. So first we're going to be, when we put our notes together, we start off with our yellow. And then the next color, I want to get a nice light color. Well, I'm going to get something so I can circle it, but it doesn't color up my words. So I'm going to use another color, which is green. So it's going to go yellow and then green. So every sentence we start with will either start Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or it will start with the word he. The next thing was going to be our categories. So let me circle that word was. So this is a nice light color. It's a little bit different. Well, you know what? Can you see the difference? Might be hard to see. Let me see if I do this. I might choose to have a darker color green. I'm going to circle it and color it so I can still see my words. It doesn't cover up my words, but it highlights my words. So I know that I'm going to use my yellow words first. Then I'm going to use my green words next. So I'm going to be using is. And then I'm going to pick the things that are in my note taker that I want to add. So I'm going to use, let's see, so I've got my yellow crayon, I've got my green crayons, and then I'm going to pick an orange crayon. And, you know, it depends on how much I want to write. I could have every last thing in there if I wanted, but that's kind of a lot for me to do. So I'm just going to pick one thing from every category that I want to share. So I'm going to have my sentence. I'm going to say I want to share that he's a reverend. That's something that I knew. So I know that it's orange. And I only have one thing here in this column. So I'm going to circle it and color it orange. And I only have one thing in this column, so I'm going to circle it. And here we go. So now in order to turn these into a sentence, I have to take my note taker and I have to follow a pattern. And when I follow my pattern, I'm going to go yellow, green, orange, then go back yellow, green, orange, and then go back yellow, green, orange. So before I write it, I'm going to practice saying it to make sure it makes sense. Let me say it out loud to somebody, see how it sounds. It goes like this. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Yellow, green, was orange, a reverend. Go back to yellow. He, yellow, green, had orange, a dream. Go back to yellow. He is a hero. Now let's see. If you think you're ready to turn your note takers into sentences, go ahead and get started. You can stop watching the video. If you still are saying, Mrs. St. Andre, I don't understand what's supposed to happen, I'll continue modeling for it. You can keep watching till the end. All right, here we go. Let me pull this up. Now I remember, I said I'm going to do my pattern. Yellow, green, orange. Yellow, green, orange. Yellow, green, orange. So let me get out my writing paper. And I'm going to start with this column. Yellow, green, orange. Doctor, and I can just use my copy strategy for that. Doctor Martin Luther King, that's a lot of words. He has a very long name. King Jr. Okay, that was my yellow. Yellow, what comes next in the pattern? Green. Let me find my green word in this column. Was. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Let me do my full sweep. Start my sentence again and say was. Reverend. Oh, Dr. Martin Luther King was a reverend. Reverend. And that's the end of my sentence. Period. But that's not the end of my notes. So now I'm going to go back up and start my pattern again. Remember, my pattern is yellow, green, orange. But I don't have to say Martin Luther King Jr. anymore. Now I can use the sight word he. He what comes next in my pattern? Yellow, green. I'm going to go to my mid column. I'm going to write that green word. Had a dream. I remember that. A dream. Dream. And I can copy it just the way I wrote it. Dream. That's why I did my labeling last week. So now I'm mostly doing copy strategy. Let's see. All right, let's go back to my pattern. Yellow. Now, do I have to write Martin Luther King Jr. again? I don't have to. I can write the word he again. He, I can choose that word. He is, and I wrote words down, a hero. Let me write that down. A hero. Because that is what I found in my research. you're probably going to have sentences that are different than Mrs. St. Andre's because you did different research than Mrs. St. Andre. But when we're done, if you follow the note taker, we have 3 sentences about Dr. King, things that we've learned. Let's read. I'm going to read my words to you. You go ahead and read your words to someone at home. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a reverend. He had a dream. He is a hero. Wow. 3 sentences. And now we know who Dr. King is. And now we might understand why he has a whole day in January dedicated to him. You are doing such a great job. We're not quite done our research project. So when you're finished, make sure you put both your note taker and your paper. And if you have lots of other writing or lots of other notes, make sure you keep it in a baggie right here. And keep your baggie in a special spot so we can use them for the rest of the week. Have an awesome Osprey day. Osprey, lead the way.